Hi, folks. Larry Rolla here. Today, I almost don't have a choice but to answer a lot of the questions that came in. I know that you probably want to hear other stuff, but I got so many good questions pertaining to the horses and the thoroughbreds and the standardbreds that I just have to answer them. I don't have time on the lives at 7 o'clock. In fact, tonight there'll be a live at 7 o'clock. I'm going to try to answer some more questions that come in, but some of them are really good, and I can't just talk about things and not back them up if asked. So I have to answer a lot of these questions that come in that make sense and that are good questions. Now, I understand that probably 98% of my audience is all guys, and probably most of them are into the horse racing thing or the mob thing. But the mob thing there's not much more I could say except that I was involved. I did what I had to do. You've all heard it 100 times. And as far as my story goes, why don't you get into how you got these jockeys and everything else? I've already been through them, and every time I try to explain, people call in and say, "You're telling the same story over again. How many times are you going to say, go up to a jockey and say, you like your horse in this race, you're the morning line favorite," and he says he has a good shot, and then for 5,000, could you change your mind? And the answer is always yes, most of the time. And so what are you going to say about that? In the movie, it plays out a whole differently. You see the whole scene, you see everything that happens. So I really don't want to get into all of that, because if I get into what happened with Con Erico when he walked into the paddock, how did he get these guys? How did that all happen? I could go through it, but it'd be an hour discussion, how and why and when and where. So I just got to keep moving it along. These podcasts can't go on for hours, and there's a lot of people that come in with real good questions that I have to answer. I mean, I have through my life, I have stories that I never mentioned in the book, and I said I would get to them, and I will. I mean, my time at Plato's Retreat with Frankie Panisse, who owned the place, and at the Playboy Club, and at Studio 54, and a friend of mine who had the spanking clubs where guys and girls go in there that want to get spanked. I mean, I'm not sure how many people are interested in that. I'm sure there are a few, but I really don't want to get into the freaky stuff. That's really not me, but there's probably a lot. I probably have more people, more subscribers and views and probably getting a lot more girls on if I surrounded myself with a couple of guys in like maybe the Chippendales or something. And I'm sure I get more subscribers if I had two poles here with topless dancers dancing on a pole. I guess, and maybe someday I'll do that. I don't know, but anyway, tonight at 7 o'clock, tune in. It's going to be another free for all. Whatever questions come in, I'm going to try to answer them. So if you want to get to the little kinky side and you want to know about Plato's Retreat or the Spanky Club or whatever that is, just call in with a question, because I'll have the answers. Anyway, let me get to some of these questions, because they were really good pertaining to the horse business. And for the girls out there that are not interested, I'm sorry, but these are good questions. And like I said, if I talk about it, I have to answer questions about it. So here goes, I only have 4 or 5. Here goes John C. Duff, I think. I'm trying to remember the question and the guy who sent it. He sent in a question when could the emphasis on sprints and short distance be the cause of all these injuries? and no long, slow works to build up bone density and muscle mass. Could that be the problem? Well, everything that you talk about, what you're saying makes a lot of sense, but you have to go back. I'll start off by saying this. What makes a bone strong is concussion. If you leave a yearling or a newborn in a stall, and maybe some people think that if you take a yearling and just leave him in a stall, put him in a paddock and leave him in a stall until he was 3, and start and break him at that point and start training and putting him into training at that point, that he'd be a lot stronger and better, based on the fact that a horse don't reach full maturity and bones are not fully formed and hardened until they're 5 years old. However, if you don't start at a very young age, meaning as a yearling, these bones never, like I just said, concussion. Concussion is what makes the bones stronger and stronger and stronger. Now, here's where the training part comes in. You have to know when, where, how much. You have to recognize maybe a little swelling or a little heat if you're going too fast, too much. Another good thing is if you start breaking them in August, September, October, or even November, just go on your training schedule, and then right around Christmas time, just give them 3-4 weeks off to let their body catch up to what you're doing in the event that you're going too fast. And just remember, especially with thoroughbreds, the last set of bones to really strengthen the backbones high up on the back. But you have to be, if you're breaking yearlings, or if you're a trainer, whatever it be, standardbreds or thoroughbreds, you have to be conscious. And so by the time these horses are racing, could shorter races help? I guess maybe some people think that 2-year-olds shouldn't race any more than 4 or 5 furlongs. I don't know, but I do know in preparation to get them there. Don't forget, there's a lot of thoroughbreds that are in training for close to a year before they even start their first race, and by then, that's the crucial time. That's when a lot of the horses start bucking shins and popping splints, and that's when many problems start. But you can't just the bone density and muscle mass starts at a very young age. You can't get a horse there, however, and then expect just because you're racing in short races that the injuries won't occur. It starts from the very beginning. That's why there's a whole lot less breakdowns in the standardbred industry than in the thoroughbred industry, because the standardbreds, they understand this and they break their own horses. Thoroughbred people don't break their own horses. You can get the best thoroughbred trainer in the country. He don't break his own horse. He sends it to a farm. Now, if the farm where he sends the yearlings to really know what they're doing and they're capable and qualified, you have a real good shot. But you got to remember, some of these farms that break yearlings, they're given 15, 20, 30, 40, 100 horses to break. And then how many people work there? Who wants to work on a farm away from a racetrack, where normally at these places you get the drunken grooms that can't get a job on a racetrack or whatever? You don't have the best help, in my opinion. You don't have the best help at these places. And then you count for weather days, muddy days, rainy, snow, whatever. You gotta make sure that these. And if you only have 10 exercise rides, and let's say you have 100 yearlings you have to break, and you have 10 exercise riders. It's going to be some day to get every horse out, especially breaking yearlings and everything, every horse out every day. And that's why many times I've seen trainers get these horses back in January, February, and March, and in the place where they broke them, they say, okay, they're ready to go 3/8, and you take them out there, they can't. After a quarter of a mile, they're ready to collapse. So I seen all that stuff. So the bottom line is this: the bottom line is concussion starts to strengthen bones in moderation. You have to know what you're doing. You have to look for swelling. You have to look for that. And it's always good to give a horse right around Christmas time, probably halfway through the training, just to give them a 2, 3, 4 weeks off and let them catch up with themselves in the event they might be a problem or a problem occurring. And for the thoroughbred people, it's very important to make sure that the place, the farm, the trainer that breaks your yearlings knows what the hell he's doing. And in my opinion, I would always give it to a guy who has real good help and not that many horses to break. Even if you have to pay him a lot more, it's worth it. Okay, I think that answers that question. Now, let's see. Another one. Teen Bitcoin. He says, in the Kentucky Derby, Sierra Leone lugged in the stretch and was nearly disqualified. Ended up getting second place. He got a paddling action on his left front and always lugs in. If you were the trainer of this horse, how would you try to correct that? You can answer this or contact Chad Brown. Well, when I read this, he had 3 other people that answered this, and all 3 were correct. One trainer don't go to another trainer, especially maybe in private, but he don't announce it, what you should do and how you should do it, and that's not done. And Chad Brown don't need any help from anybody. He's pretty successful. But watching the race, I will say this: the horse was the best and the jockey was the best, and this is why I say that. Right after the half, I'm trying to remember the race now. Right after the half, and I recognized this while it was going on, he was on a rail, and he had a field of horses in front of him. Maybe 8, 10, 12 horses, whatever it was that was in front of him, because he was way back. And he had to start making his move. The rail was shut down, and he had to start steering out, trying to get around 3 horses, then 4, then 5, wide. And naturally, to get around these horses, you have to pull on the right line. Just steer them out. You steer them out. And you get by one batch, then you got to steer them out to get by another batch. And the closest you get to the head of the stretch, the more they're starting to fan out, and the more you got to keep grabbing around the right line and trying to get around these things. And that's exactly what happened to him. Now, for those of you who ride horses or train horses or whatever, you know that once you keep a horse on the right line for an extended period of time, or yank them pretty good to get around whatever it might be. Sometimes they lock right on that line. They just stay there, and they just stay with their head cocked. Now, I'm not sure if here he mentioned that the paddling action on the left side, if that was the problem, if lameness was the problem. Well, if the left front was the problem, he'd be running out, not running in. If the problem was a lameness problem, I certainly didn't see it, because I watched him gallop out after the race and he looked perfectly sound to me. But it could be a number of things, and I'm sure that Chad had them all covered. It could be something as simple as teeth. It could be anything. It could be anything. In my opinion, it was the horse being locked on the right line forever, for the last half mile, just steering out, trying to get around other horses and locked on the right line. And the jockey did a hell of a job. The jockey was the best, and the horse was the best. he had no shot of hitting him on the left side to try to get him out. It's amazing to me that this horse, as twisted as he was on the right side, that he stayed on the right lead. So he was the best horse that night, that day, and the jockey was the best. So that's my opinion of that race. Okay, let's see. This guy picked the pros and ponies. He says, so if thoroughbred racing was so easy compared to harness racing, why didn't you dominate with the thoroughbreds? Well, at the time, I was more interested in saving my life and doing what I had to do. So that's the answer to the first part of my life. I wasn't interested in dominating in anything except making money to pay back the story. You know that whole story. I won't get into it. Second of all, to dominate, these guys out there that train 100, 200, 300 horses, and they don't dominate. It's a tough game. And my game was when I finally got even with everybody and went completely legit. I loved the action. I didn't need the glory of winning a Kentucky Derby. I wasn't interested in being in the Hall of Fame. I wasn't interested in none of that. I did what I did because I loved it. I loved the competition. I loved claiming an old classy horse and bringing him back to what he used to be, and fixing the ailments and lameness problems that he might have, and playing the claiming game, and the thrill of seeing my horse after a claim go off at 15, 20 to 1, and I bet 1,000 or 2,000 on him to win. And that's what it was all about for me. I don't mean cheating. I don't mean anything. That was part of my life. When it was legit, it was still the same thing. I loved playing the claiming game. I just loved the competition. I loved the challenge. And that's what it was all about for me. And I could have did it if I lived to be 500 years old. That's what I wanted to do. And so I hope I answered that question. Okay, let's see. Here's another one from Kenneth Beck. Larry, 8 horses in a thoroughbred race. 8 guys think they can win. 8 horses in a standardbred race. 5 guys know they have no shot. That's the biggest difference. Well, I'm just gonna disagree with respect. If 8 thoroughbred trainers put a horse and they all wound up in the same race and they all thought that they could win, what's a nice way to put this? Why do many of the thoroughbred fields spread out down the stretch for the finish? Why do half of them lose their action halfway down the stretch? Why are some of them running in so bad? Why are some of them running out so bad? Why in just about every harness race, when they snap the picture at the finish line, you can see 5, 6, 7 horses, sometimes most of the field right there. In thoroughbred racing, sometimes they're strung out 1/16 of a mile back from the winner to the finish, including in the Preakness, including in the Kentucky Derby, including everything. So if what you say is kind of true, that 8 trainers and 8 horses in the thoroughbred race, they all think they could win, what do you think half of them would say after the race when their horse finishes 40 lengths off the lead horse? So I don't know. I hate to disagree with you, but I have to. But I'm trying to do it in a respectful way. But It's just I just seen too many thoroughbred horses, and many halfway down the stretch, they're losing their action. They're running in, they're running sideways, they're spread out, and so I don't think that's true. Even though I think thoroughbred trainers, standardbred trainers are far superior than thoroughbred trainers, I don't agree with what you said. But Kenneth, just keep watching. Don't get mad. Okay, here's another one from Douglas Hart. Having trained both standardbreds and thoroughbreds and shod them myself, I really have seen little difference in their hooves. But then I always treated my thoroughbreds like my harness horses, and clay packed their feet and oiled them daily. I lost no racing plates in a race or work, and I used the same nails with 3 on each side as I do with the standardbreds. Okay, Douglas, that's a bit of a challenge. No, I don't think it's a challenge. I think good for you. And I'm sure that there are many trainers. I talk in generalities. I can't compare everybody, and this is just my opinion. So when there's exceptions to everything to the rule, and there's exceptions to everything I say, and I'm sure that many people have different opinions, and that's why they won't come on the show and talk about this, because we could talk about this one question for a long time and really get into the nitty gritty. But what I will say is that you're the exception. But there are guys like you, smaller guys, not the big guys, smaller guys, that do the same thing as you do. Now, let me start off like this so some of the people can understand. I did say that a thoroughbred and the standardbred, their feet are a little different. The years ago, the standardbred was a much sturdier horse, and much more bulk, and their feet were a lot stronger and sturdier. And the wall of the foot, which is where the nail goes, on a standardbred, it probably was maybe 1/4 of an inch thick all around up until about an inch before you got to the heel. In a thoroughbred, it was about half that thickness. And naturally, like the strength of the foot is 2 things. First thing is a round foot is the strongest, not an oblong foot, a round foot. And the second thing is the thickness of the wall. Now, the thoroughbred has probably half the thickness of the wall, and that's the part of the foot where the nail goes. There's the sole of the foot, and then the wall. And if the nail gets too close to the sole, you're hitting the quick. And if it goes too high up, you're going to hit the quick. It's like sticking a nail underneath your nail. That's what a quick is. So, but if you pay attention, and you know the fact that the horse's foot probably grows about 1/4 of an inch a month. So if you replace the horse's shoes every 4 or 5 weeks, the foot would probably grow about 1/4 of an inch or a little bit more. Therefore, if you were doing it yourself, it's very possible to use the same exact nail holes, and especially with the thoroughbreds because they're pre-punched in the plates, and go into the same nail hole, but go 1/4 of an inch or 3/8 of an inch higher before you quick them. That would make the shoe stay on solid. But a lot of the thoroughbred guys, they especially with the bigger stables, they have a blacksmith come, the groom holds the blacksmith just pulls the shoe off, rasps them right down, sometimes almost to the bloodline, and just sees what size shoe, gets a 4 or 5, tacks it back on, the same nail holes. When the nails don't go in solid, they look for different spots, and sometimes they get a little too close to the soul. Sometimes they go a little too far back. Sometimes, and a lot of things happen. In my experience, I'll say this: I can guarantee you. I'm not going to guarantee it, but I would bet that if you took a hoof testers to 99% of the thoroughbreds, most of them would flinch. If let's say each foot had 8 nails in it, when you get to each nail, they'll flinch at least on one of them, which means, and that could be the reason many times you could put a shoe on, you could put a nail in and get it good and solid and everything else and go up high. And then you say, wow, I escaped that disaster. But in reality, it was so close to the quick that when a horse lands on it, it goes right into the live part. And maybe that's why, because the lack of conditioning, the lack of, when you see horses flounder down the stretch and you see horses lose their action, how many things could it be? It has to be lack of conditioning, or it has to be that they're sore someplace. And just picture trying to run. How would you run? Would your gait be the same jogging if you had a nail in the heel of your shoe and sticking in the heel? It wouldn't. So just look at these horses that lose their gait, that are running in, that won't switch leads, that just do anything but look real good. There's a reason for it, and sometimes the jockeys are not good enough to go back and tell them this horse wouldn't switch leads. Look for someplace. I mean, if you ask a trainer, if a horse don't switch leads coming out of a turn, can you give me the reason why? And they couldn't. And but that's them are stories that we should tell when we're sitting around at a round table, or maybe have 5 or 6 trainers on the podcast here talking about different things and just getting them out. I've been trying to get some trainers on here for a long time. They just don't come. They don't respond. I can get fighters on. I can get mob guys on. I can get killers on. I can get women on. I can get everybody on except another trainer that disagrees with me. I can get plenty of trainers that agree with me, but I can't get one that disagrees with me. And it's amazing that how can you get a guy on here that killed 20 guys, come out of jail, he'll come on. How do you get a guy that come on that spent 44 years in jail? He'll come on. How do you get a girl that fucked 1,000 guys? She'll come on. I can't get a trainer to come on, a thoroughbred trainer. Anyway. Okay, I hope that answers your question. Okay, here's another one. Douglas, is that, I just read, haven't there? Yeah, I did that one already. Okay. That's it. Them are the questions that I thought were the most important questions. So I'm gonna end this. Tune in tonight at 7:00 with more questions. I got to try to mix it up, I don't know. Anyway, try to tune in tonight at 7:00 and they have a very important question. Another thing that you can do, and I heard it on some other podcast, and it's good. Put a Q next to the question. This way I know that it's a question and not a comment, because sooner or later, I have my friend looking at this, because as you can see, I have a problem communicating. I know what I want to say. I don't get the words out right. I'm not good at this stuff. But soon I'm going to have to look at the questions and talk, just like Tommy Stiggs. I don't know how the hell he does it. He looks at these things as they're scrolling down. He says hello to people. He answers a question. He keeps talking about this. It's unbelievable. I can't do that. So if you would put a Q in front, this way my friend or whoever's going to help me read these things, that would be helpful. In the meantime, tune in tonight at 7:00, and I'm going to try to change some kind of subjects, but these questions, they keep coming in. And if it turns out that I wind up having a podcast, not even about my life, even though my whole life was in the horse business, and if it's going to be about training, conditioning, buying, conformation, lameness, everything about racehorses, that's okay with me. That's been my whole life. That's what I really like, and I wouldn't mind it. And even if the audience got cut in half, but it was good, solid. Look, years ago, the racehorse industry was the largest spectator sport in the world, and it's a great game, and for reasons that we can talk about. And that's what I said last week. And Freddie Hudson got a hold of me, and he says we could have a round table and have top trainers, top jockeys, top drivers all sit around, and veterinarians all sit around and talk about the problem. And it can go on for an hour or 2 hours, and it could be part 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because the problems that are around today are serious problems. And the problems, most of the problems are affecting the horses that can't say nothing and that are being hurt. And it's criminal what's happening to these horses, all in an effort to try to create a level playing field. And now they're starting to have government agencies trying to correct things and control things and to stop things, and all you really need is a big round table. Even if you have a Zoom call with 15, 20 people on, and each one being respectful and talking about the problems that are in the game today. And there's many. And like I said a couple of podcasts ago, that this new agency, they're going to spend close to $800,000 to find out if the Lasix rule should be changed. I mean, it's stupid bullshit. Give the $800,000 to correct some of the problems that we have today, and give it to one of the hospitals, give it to the vets. We could fix this thing. Just get responsible people all together, and we can fix it. It can be fixed, and that's fine with me. I could care less about talking about the mob. I can care less about talking about anything except fixing the horse racing industry. And I keep getting batted over the head, and nobody will come on to talk about that. So after a while, I'm going to say, fuck it. You want girls? I'll have 2 girls with topless girls sitting right next to me. I'll bet you then I'll have, like I said 2 weeks ago, I did the most important podcast that I ever did in my life about cancer, about helping cancer patients, about helping cancer people that had cancer that were given no hope. And I told them where to go and how to do it. I got the less views on that than I got for all the other bullshit. And the most views was when I had Larry Mazaron talking about the mob and how many people were killed and this and that and everything else. It's mind-boggling to me. But I understand that when you live the life that these guys lived or that I lived, it's just your life. You know, you do it every day. And to people that work normal jobs, they're fascinated by this stuff. So I kind of understand it, but I don't. Anyway, I'm going to walk my dog. See you 7 o'clock tonight.